Look, Australia today has got a real big issue in our health system. And the more I dug into it, the more I looked, what I found is just the influence of big pharma in a lot of things that we didn't know they had influences in. And the reason I even come across this is obviously in my workplace. We deal with things like cancer treatments, peptides, stem cell therapy. And what I learned is, as an example, peptides. There's a massive push from the Australian medical system to make sure that doctors that are more than well qualified enough to deal with the peptide industry. With peptides, what you find is that big pharma is putting massive influence on government regulation to make sure that they influence doctors not to work along that line. And the problem that big pharma has with something like peptides, and peptides, if you don't know, this is a natural hormone that flows through your system every day anyway. But the problem is exactly that, it's natural. Big pharma doesn't know what natural is, or sorry, they can't get paid off anything that's natural. So what that means is they don't like that, because if you want to need any peptides from anywhere, then you don't go to a pharmacy, you go to a compounding pharmacist. So that's why today there's a lot of pressure on compounding pharmacists. A lot of it's because they're not getting paid from that. So that's one of the things that I was saying, just that influence, and there's a lot of doctors getting pressured to stop dealing in this industry solely for the purpose of keeping big pharma happy. Things like cancer. When I learned that the cancer industry, well, at least the protocol by the cancer industry is written, well, at least 80% plus of the protocol is being completely written by people that are 100% conflicted with interest from the pharmaceutical industry. The problem you're going to have with that is quite simple. That when there's a new treatment that pops up, as an example, a treatment that's more than well recognized worldwide, more than enough studies to prove, is vitamin C. Get that from an orange. Now, the problem with that is, how is big pharma ever going to get paid out of something you can squeeze out of an orange? You're not. And what that actually means is that's never going to become part of the cancer protocol. So the problem you've got is, you may have a diagnosis of cancer, you're sitting at your doctor's office, and you're all upset, they're giving you the diagnosis, but then you go home and you have a talk with your family, that someone in your family knows someone that at the end of the day might have a better idea, but this other guy knows something else. And then by the end of the night, you've got all these great ideas. You know what? I might be able to fight this. And you go to sleep and you're actually quite happy now because you've got a plan of attack towards this cancer. Only to turn up to the doctors the following day with your book full of answers, and you can say, you know what, doc, found all this stuff last night that we can do to fight this. Let's do it. And then the doctor takes a couple of looks and goes, well, we can't do any of that. We're in Australia, buddy. And that's the problem. In Australia, you've got a few choices. You can do radiation, you can do chemotherapy, you can do palliative care. That's pretty much the options you get. And that, to me, is not acceptable when there are other options available. And, the other area that we work in is things like stem cell. Just to give you an idea how ridiculous the regulations come in the stem cell industry. Most people in Australia don't even know that we do stem cell therapy here regularly, all the time. Not only that, we've been doing it for over a decade. So what that means is, if we've been doing something commercially for over a decade, what we've been doing commercially is no longer experimental. But unfortunately, that's the story and the narrative that keeps coming across, is to try to make sure that people think, oh no, it's just an experimental. They don't really know what they're doing yet. And it's not the case. In Australia, just to give you an idea, you can do stem cell therapy, but in any of your marketing material, if you're actually trying to get patients into your business, you're not allowed to have the word stem cell. Now, to me, that is just ridiculous. It's like telling a plumber, well, you can do plumbing, but you can't have the word plumber. You can't have the word plumbing. It's illegal now. For what reason? No reason whatsoever. We just decided to make it illegal today. And that's pretty much what we're dealing with the stem cell industry. And when you see what happens in the university levels with big pharma as well, is that what they do, and what I learn over time, when big pharma funds a specific study, what they're really doing, they obviously can't they can't dictate what the results are going to be. However, what they can do is put a little bit of pressure on that scientist that's going to be writing up that conclusion. So you can well have as an example, you can have all the results going death, 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 death. Conclusion, perfectly safe. Let's roll with it. Because most people read conclusions. And what happens is Big Pharma tips the scientists to make the conclusion that's going to be beneficial to them. And that's the problem. So you've got studies that are being biasly pushed one way or another. You've got treatments that are being suppressed because they're going to stop profits coming in from somewhere else. And what I've noticed, again, it's an area that no one is talking about. And unfortunately, most people that I see that have become aware of this problem, they're dealing with their own problems by that time, and they can't deal with this. So I've got to take it upon myself in regards to seeing this problem and trying to find a way around it. And what I have found, because at the end of the day, this is the way I look at things. The government does not have any right to mandate me on how I should be treated when I become ill for any medical condition that's out there. I don't think the government's got any right to tell me I have to do this. This is the only way it can be treated. However, I do believe that the government's got 100% responsibility to make sure that I'm informed with the best information that's available out there, so then I can make that decision. At the end of the day, if my mind is good enough to choose who's going to be running this country and vote for a specific political party, then I'm sorry, my mind is good enough to decide how I should be treated if I see a certain illness that I have to come across, or how a family member is going to be treated. And that goes at all boards. The government does not have the right to medically treat me in any way, period. That's my choice, it's my body, it's my right.